Good evening. My name is Sue Dean, and I will be starting my outline now. This is from chapters 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and I'm going to focus on 4 through 7 right now about putting together a great program. And chapter 4 talks about designing effective instruction. And there's a balance between teacher presentation and audience participation, and I think it's important to have both. And it's important when you have that audience participation to be a listener as well as a teacher. Then activating the existing knowledge. It's an important element early in the program. When class starts, the process of learning based on their knowledge when they come into the class on the subject is important. It helps them to move forward. So when you start with the basics, they feel comfortable, and as they learn, they know they're moving forward. And it's important to talk about the power of demonstration. That helps the audience apply it into their own lives when they can see a demonstration. It helps them discover their understanding of what's been presented to them. Then we go into chapter 5, engaging the audience. And to me, this is a very vital aspect of teaching. And it must be done with relevance, respect, and participation. Otherwise, they could just read it from a book. What difference is it going to make to them? But when it is relevant to their lives, it's taught with respect, and they get to participate, they're going to remember it more. And be building the class around the needs of the audience. You need to be aware of the audience, and that's why I'm sure we talked about what the target audience is. And we know in family life education what that can be, and that is very helpful. Of the 3 models in changes and challenges, there's contrast, consistency, and fulfillment. To me, consistency is the most important. And what that is done is by observing the audience and sometimes instantly weaving that into your lesson. When I gave my practice workshop, that's one of the things I was able to do. I was able to read the audience in a way I could see where they were truly listening and when they were nodding and agreeing and things that they could relate to, and I would kind of expand on that and help them in that area. And that's part of building a relationship with your audience at the same time. Parents, in capitalizing on the emotion of family life education, it's to me a key part with family life education and educating the parents in families and family life. And then there's less need for therapy if you can get it before the therapy. And I know that's the whole concept of family life education, and I think it's vitally important. And I am impressed by the needs in the book where it talks about us getting our hearts right. We need to have that compassion, that humility, and that positivity that our audiences can relate with. Chapter 6. Teaching skills and tools. There were so many of them, but I'm only going to mention a few of them. Leading group discussions, again, I want to say how vitally important that is, and I think it's important for the audience. It helps them understand what you're teaching when they can relate it to a story and bring it into a discussion, and that's part of the personal narratives as well. Movie clips and internet clips and that kind of thing. Again, I use those in my practice workshop. And it really helped them. It started discussions when we were done with the videos before we even had to start one. They just immediately started talking about, oh yeah, I see how that fits. Comic strips and cartoons. Who doesn't need a little break from all the monotony every so often with a cute little comic? Related to the subject, a little comic strip that you show and you get a little comic relief and a little bit of a break during the class. Homework assignments. What a great way to keep them engaged. These were all things that I did in my practice workshop, and it really helped them with all of these tools. It's great to have a variety. Skilled dialogue. How important is that in a lesson? To be able to communicate with respect and to reciprocate and to have responsiveness. All these are tools that are crucial. Knowing your audience again in program diversity, and know yourself. It's interesting, as I was giving my lesson, as I was teaching them, I was remembering things about myself and my life and was able to relate them right then. It was really interesting what I was able to learn about myself as we went through it. But the more you know about yourself, the better you can teach it. Being sensitive and passionate, realizing these are all individuals. They don't have to believe everything you believe, but if you give them the tools, they can do with it what they want. They are all individuals. Then we go to chapter 8, and I chose education for personal well-being. Even at my age, there's always things that I want to be learning about my well-being and about my past and the decisions I made. The self-esteem era stuck out at me. I remember my son learning that as a young child and really wondering about how the teacher was teaching it. And the question was, does better self-esteem equal better performance, or does better performance equal better self-esteem? I believe it's both. It needs to be a good balance. There was such a big push for self-esteem in his era, and it created a Generation Me, or a narcissistic era. It's not that it can't be remedied, but it did create a little bit of a dilemma. And it also was interesting because it contributed to the bearing of their feelings. If everything is always well, then anything negative they just pushed aside, and they buried those feelings instead of dealing with them. And there was a new positive energy, and I value the focus on well-being rather than therapy. If we focus on family and how to make it better, there is less need for the therapy. Not that therapists can't do it. I've done this most of my adult life, gone to therapy for well-being, and I think it's a great tool for life. Practical messages of positive psychology, using our strengths to create a positive life and environment. Find your strengths, find your audience's strength, and use those. And I think a great way to do this is through service. It's a great mode for positivity in all things. It makes you feel better. Those you are serving, it helps to feel better. And family life education is a perfect platform to help before that need of therapy. And it's a way to build on your own strengths as well as helping others. And then finally, in teaching the gospel learning. What a great way to live and teach. To know that you're living in such a way that you can be guided by the Holy Spirit as you not only prepare lessons, but as you give lessons. And I love that the tools that they used for teachers were the same tools that were in the book. How we can use those in such a way that through gospel learning and gospel teaching, we can help our audiences. We thrive as teachers and learners. And when we keep spirituality and gospel-based focus with both teaching and learning, it is a positive for everyone. And keeping in mind, teachers should always be learners as well. Don't we learn so much when we put together a lesson, a talk, or a program? Thank you very much.